basically, without instructions, it's so hard for me to make any progress. Even though I try to Google and stuff, it's a whole like different language and a different planet altogether for me. It's a lot to learn to make it work.
Yes, especially if you've never programmed before.
Yeah.
There's definitely a learning curve.
Yeah.
I'll never say there isn't a learning curve,
Yeah.
but I'd say the majority of people can get in here and create at least a visual of what they
Right.
want to build. Maybe not give it the functionality that they're looking for, but you can
Yeah.
learn how to take these elements on the left side and create something that looks good for yourself. And now you actually have AI, so you can create an entire page just by talking to it. You can create a new component. You can draw a sketch and it can make it for you.
Mm.
So you could use these AI tools to help speed that up, help create like that visual for you even faster.
Yeah.
It's cool. It's still very, very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. So today, like, just I suppose I'll dive into like for you, do you still want to build a custom app? I guess
Oh yeah,
that's
I
the
think
question.
I just need to like either outsource it or have like a TA, like going to math class, you know how you go to TA,
Hmm.
you have office hour and you can like get your questions answered or at least have someone point me to the right direction. Um, I'm just here for a little bit because I emailed you earlier and was like, hey, did you have like is this recorded the past several
Hmm.
sessions? And I didn't hear back from you, so I was like, oh, maybe I should
Oh,
jump on and see if I can catch you.
yeah. Well, when I remember to click the record button, I thought I had it automatic. I need
I
to set
think
it up
you
so it
did.
automatically records.
Yeah.
Yeah, but if I remember to click that record button, then I do put it on YouTube.
Oh, I see.
So,
So whatever you have is on YouTube. I got you.
yes.
Okay, cool. That's good to know. Yeah, I have to jump off in a little bit, so I wouldn't be here for the whole hour. But it's helpful to just catch up and know that this is still available. At least
Mhm.
then I can prepare for next week.
Yeah. And I am publishing a video on no code every day, and I'm publishing that video on YouTube as well. So I won't say that every day is training, but
Hmm.
pretty much every, I'd say 80% of the days are focused on training and helping you build an app. So I think today, actually, what I'm going to dive into is one of the core things that I wanted to teach, and that is how do you build something that looks like this? How do
Okay.
you create an app or a visual interface? And it all starts with boxes, actually. So
Okay.
if if you ever built a website, then everything is built from boxes. So you just have a whole bunch of boxes, and then you have boxes inside of boxes, and then you just get smaller and smaller until you have something that is a box that accepts text inputs or is a box that holds text. It's all just a whole bunch of boxes, which is a weird way to describe web development. But I mean, let me just pull up perhaps an example. Don't necessarily. So looking at this, right? If we right click on this and we click on inspect, when we're building a website, you can see it'll outline all the boxes for you when you're in this inspect mode. And I'm not sure why to stop, but if I go, yeah, okay. If I go over here on this right side, we can see it's going to highlight all my boxes. And I can
Okay.
expand out these different boxes and we can take a look at everything that's inside of them. So you can see here's a box and then there's a box beneath it. And inside of this box, we have one box at the top, another box at the bottom. We can expand the box at the bottom and look at more boxes, right? So it's all just a whole bunch of boxes. And every single box has what's called a different layout. So in Flutter, if we're building a Flutter app, okay, just like that there, then we're doing pretty much the same thing. We have a container, which represents just a generic box, and it will hold something inside of it. And then we have a column, which represents a box, but it orders all of the children inside of it, so all the boxes inside of it, in a column, so top to bottom. Then you have a row, which is a box that orders all of its children from left to right.
Mm.
And so this element here, for example, is a great example of a row. So it's got three things in a row: low, medium, high. Boom, 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 right? And they're just stacked together. This entire view that you're looking at right now, that I can scroll up and down in, is a column. So all of the elements in here are stacked on top of each other. So if we look at my layout on the left side, so I have a container that stores everything. Inside that container, I have a column.
Mhm.
So we can click on that column. We can see the box of the column. It's this kind of teal outline. And then that column has multiple containers inside of it. I've got a container here along with a what's called a conditional builder beneath
Mhm.
it, which is basically using a condition to know what should I display.
Mm.
And depending on the true or false statement, it will display something else to the user. So in this case, I have it set up so that if they've submitted their email address, so I can hide this and we can show this other one. So to view results, provide your email address. And so if they've provided their email address, then instead of that, it'll pop over and it will show this. All right, so it's just a specialized box that shows different things depending on a condition. So that's what this column is showing. And then we have another, well, inside of this container is another container. So another formatting aspect for these boxes, you can put what's called padding and margin. So I have these two containers set up here so that I can push things in and create some space so things look nice. So you can see I have a 6 units of padding. If I put like 20, it'll push everything out. You can see the outline here is how much padding I have. So if I turn that to 6 and I click on this other container and I change this to like 40, we'll see everything kind of pops in and there's a big black outline around the information inside of this box.
So
So padding lets you push in.
how come
Yeah.
you have the two containers at the same size? Are they doing different things? Like,
Yeah. So if we're looking at them in terms of boxes, so first and foremost, we have this box, right? And its background, its color is my secondary background color. So I could change its color. We could change it to something like, I'm going to get the primary, this red is horrible. Maybe that's a bit better, right? So I can change the background color. And that's why I have two boxes. The first box is to give me a color. And then the second box is to kind of push things in from
oh, I got
that
you.
color. So
Oh,
there's some space around the edges,
oh, got you.
right? So I actually kind of like having a bit more space here. So I'll make this 12 instead of the previous 6. So I'll double the padding. I'm going to turn this back into my secondary background just because I don't want it to be the blue. The blue's a little garish. So that's why there are two boxes. And so
Yeah.
you're just taking these boxes, and I just took a box and I said, let's give it a color. And then I put another box inside of it and I said, separate this box from the edges of the other box by 12 pixels. And that's what's going on here, so that I could have some nice coloring in the background. And then inside of this box, I actually have another column. And this column has a text. So if we're just looking at this left side, you can see as I'm hovering over on the left side, it'll highlight everything up here. We've got text. We've got a row. So this column has, if we're looking at it as everything stacked on top of each other, column has a row where everything is stacked left to right. And the row has a text user count and a text input field called user count. And then I've got another divider that's outside of the row. We've got some text, and then we have some of my custom components that let me input a name, a help string, and then whether or not it's a low, medium, or high. So it lets me have these, what's called a chip on the right side here. So every single view that you see online is built up of these boxes. And generally, they're going to be rows or columns. Those are the two most common ones. Some other common ones are something called a stack. So this is what it looks like when there's a bubble in the bottom right corner of your screen that lets you talk with an assistant or something like that. So that'll be the bubble that pops up in the bottom right. If we head over to my website, for example, it might have the bubble might pop up. Maybe I got rid of it. It's possible I got rid of it. So the stack is what lets you layer things on top of each other so that you can create different views. So I have a stack here because I want to be able to show this over everything else. So this
Mm.
stack lets me show and hide this piece of information, irrespective of what's been around it already. And so I
Mm.
can move this down into the bottom right if I wanted to. I can pop it over to the bottom left. Right now, it's activated when I click on that button, so it just makes sense to have it right there. But if I wanted to, say, add another, I'll put a container. I always like to wrap things in containers. And then I'll say, let's add a button. So if I wanted to add a button in the bottom right corner, then I could do that with my stack and make the button just be there irrespective of all the other stuff that's in the stack as well. So that's another example of a layout, a box that has a specific kind of layout. And then there are other specialized ones such as grid view. Grid view is a common one, so it lets you create a grid. I think that's pretty straightforward. So I can add a grid view to this. And if I hide that, it'll look kind of weird, but I can add a container to this grid view. And if I duplicate it, then it'll start stacking them left to right. And then once it hits the end of my grid view, so there's 3 elements across it from
Mm.
left to right, and then it starts to stack down. And I can decrease this to 2 so that now there's 2 elements left to right and 2 elements beneath it. So that is how we lay things out. In general, the 3 that I use the most are the stack, the column, and the row.
Mm.
And the containers are just there to provide colors, background colors, and padding when
Okay.
necessary. So those are our 4 main core elements of just creating a design, a layout, and that's how we would do it, building, kind of building all this out. So now I would like to see if I can dive into the feature that I've been wanting to build, which is I want to make it so that if I hover over one of these items, that it will highlight other items that work well with it. So if we go to my NoCode Software Selector right now, we can just see what's currently in existence. So we've got all these different tools, and my controls up here will hide and show the different tools below. So let's say if I say my access control, I want it to be high, then Supabase is kind of the only option for me. So database tools. So we've got Smart Suite, Supabase, BuildShip, etc. I'm going to say this is high. And what I want to do is I want to make it so that if I mouse over this, it'll highlight the other softwares that work super well with Supabase in these other lists. So you'll be like, okay, so I know that I want to work with Supabase. What are some no-code tools that integrate directly with Supabase so that I can continue using Supabase because I know this is going to be a requirement for me? we are going to dive into that, and I'm going to show you this specific component because another massive part of design is being able to create components that you can reuse consistently. So if we take a look at this conditional builder, we can see we have our database tools, we have our interface, and we have our backend tools. And so we can mouse over these and you can see they're all inside of a column. So I got all three of these in here. And if we take a look at this, we have a no code, what I call a no code tool row. And this is my custom widget that encapsulates all of this information because I needed to reuse it in like multiple times, dozens of
Mm.
times actually, depending on the number of tools. And so I created a widget specifically for it so that I could reuse this part of the screen in many different places. It's very similar to what I did up here with the different requirements. So these yes and no's, these are, I'm pretty sure they're just called like a yes no selector. Yeah. So I have a yes no selector and I have a low, medium, and high selector. So we can click on that and see, like, this is the basic layout. This is what they look like.
So, so this like under pages, you have these little custom diamond thingy. So once you
Mhm.
have built it, you can kind of keep reusing it in different parts of it could be like parts of each page.
Yes. Yeah. So you're essentially, when you create these diamonds, these are called widgets.
Okay.
And these widgets are reusable elements that you can plop anywhere you want. So in my case, I have lots of different, so there's lots of different like things that require yes and no. And I didn't want to just copy this information and paste it down here because I knew I was going to, well, I needed to reuse it. I would say
Mm-hmm.
anytime you get to this point where where you're copying and pasting a whole bunch of like what you're looking at. So if I needed to copy and paste this somewhere else and reuse it again for like a slightly different purpose,
Mm-hmm.
anytime you're going to do that, you should just click on that thing, whatever it may be, and then come up here in the top right and click on convert to reusable custom component. Like, just
Okay.
do that immediately
Okay.
because it is fetching annoying to, let's say you go back, and for me, let's say I went back to this and I realized, well, this actually happened to me, right? So this is why I'm saying this. I had a whole bunch of these yes, no selectors. They weren't diamonds over here, so they weren't custom widgets. They were just all the uh, widgets were directly inside of here, similar to this deployment, right?
Yeah.
So it looked like this. It was a row with a text and then the chips on the right side. And I went back and I realized it would be really, really nice to include just some text along the bottom that describes what this is. And at that point, I was like, okay, I want to include that for pretty much every single yes, no, and every single low, medium, and high widget. And instead of copying and because in order to, let's see, if we're looking at this row, in order to add the text beneath it, what I need to do is I need to wrap this text in a column so I can
Mm.
stack two things on top of each other. So I'm gonna wrap this in a column. And then
Hey,
I need to add
Sterling.
another text beneath it. Yeah?
So I have to run, but I'll come back next
Okay.
week and I'll be fully prepared to do more of this. So thank you.
Okay. Yeah. My pleasure,
Give
Carol. Thank you so much for hopping in.
No, thank you. Now I know this is still like in progress. I can prepare better for next
Mhm.
week. So nice catching up
Yeah.
with you.
Yeah, likewise. I will say I don't plan on doing this for the next 3 weeks. I'm
Mm.
attending a training over the next 2 weeks that'll be taking up all of my time. And then
Gotcha.
after that, it's Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
So I don't think I'll be doing this until the first week of December. I'll be
I
starting
guess
it
I'll
back
see
up.
you on YouTube.
Yeah, so I will continue posting on YouTube. I feel like that's just been more valuable in general.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. That
Mhm.
sounds good. Well, I guess I'm not gonna see you after Thanksgiving. So happy Thanksgiving.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Carol. You too. Have a
No,
wonderful
I
Friday.
you too. Bye.
Uh, right? Yeah. So going back to this idea of the column, like if I wanted to add a new piece of information to this row, and let's say I needed to add this help text beneath every single thing in here, it gets really annoying because I would need to do that multiple times. I'd need to go into each one. I'd need to take the text. I need to wrap it into a column. I need to add the text beneath it. I need to add some spacing to this column itself, so there's some spacing between it, right? And it's like doing that for all of them just really sucks. Which is why the custom widgets is really awesome, because if I want to change any of these yes, no selectors, then I could come in here, and if I wanted to add more text beneath it, I can just take this container and I can duplicate it. And now all of a sudden I have, well, if that worked, I'm gonna try that on. There we go. So now I have two help texts. And if I hop back over to the home page, we can see that all of my widgets that are yes, no now have two of those kind of on repeat beneath it. So I don't necessarily want that. So I'm going to hop back over here and delete that. But that lets me edit every single element in my homepage that's yes, no immediately, all of them, all at once, which speeds me up insanely fast, makes me insanely fast. This is why we create our custom widgets. So custom widgets can be used to create reusable elements throughout your entire application. Now, in my case, I have this no-code tool row, and what I wanted to do is I want to set it up so that if I mouse over it, a specific thing takes place, a specific thing happens. Now, I'm just going to take a look at the available options to me. Got on initialization, on shortcut press for the custom widget. That's not exactly what I want. If we take a look at the row, what are the actions available to me there? On tap, on double tap. Do we have anything like on mouse over, right? On pin end, on scale end, on secondary long press down, on tap up, right? And maybe what I can do is I can have it be an on tap. So I can set it up to just be an on tap. It looks like I don't necessarily, maybe I need to wrap this in something like, can I wrap it in a mouse? Like a draggable, I guess there's a draggable mouse region. Yeah, so I can put it in, wrap it in a mouse region. And now with the mouse region, what I can do is on mouse enter, on mouse exit, right? So this is kind of what I need. This is what I was looking for. So when someone mouses over this, I want to highlight it. And so to that end, what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to create a container, put this in a box, and I'm going to put some padding around the box. Let's make it 4, just so everything's kind of pushed in a little bit. And now anything that, like if you mouse over the container, it should also activate mousing over the region, which will allow me to make the actions or take the actions that I like to take. Now, to communicate outside of our widget, we need to be able to, well, just call an action inside of the home page from within our widget. And the way that we do this is by having the widget accept what's called a component parameter. I guess these are called components, so I should probably shift the way that I describe them from here on out, just to so I match Flutterflow. So Flutterflow has components. I guess, yeah, they call them components. I used to call them widgets. Like, I guess maybe widgets is perhaps more React. Uh, yep. Okay. So we'll call them components from here on out. So we give it a name. So I'll just say on mouse over. And this is going to be an action, right? So I'm going to accept an action. It needs to be required. The parameter, I don't necessarily care too much about the parameters. Let's see. So if they mouse over this, I want to be able to say that this specific one was selected. And so there are some specific parameters I want to pass back. So this would be, let's say, would it be the name, the ID? What's the name? So if I click on, we'll do an integer ID, and we will hit confirm. And so now we have an on mouse over action integer, and we're going to wire that up to our mouse region, which I'm going to say research callback. This took me a long time to find, but there's actually an execute callback. and we choose the on mouse over, and then we set the ID. So we have the tool info, and I'm just going to say that it is the ID of the tool info that we're passing back. There we go. So now whenever we mouse over this, it's going to call the function, the action that was passed into our widget by the home page. So I'm going to actually edit this because I want to do two things. So I'm going to say on mouse enter, and I'm going to add another one, say on mouse exit. So I can do two things. So I can respond when I mouse over it and respond when I mouse out of it. Right. So this will also accept an integer that is also required. Oh no, sorry. This is on mouse exit, which requires an ID parameter, integer, and it will not be nullable. We'll confirm there. And now we have our on mouse enter and on mouse exit. And so we're going to open this up and we're going to add the on mouse exit and wire it up into our callback, execute callback, which call on mouse exit, passing in the ID of the tool info, ID confirm. Boom. So now we have our on mouse enter and on mouse exit. Now what we need to do is set it up so that when on mouse enters, it kind of highlights it, right? I want to give it a nice little outline. So we're going to update this, perhaps this container, and give it a border radius. I'm going to give it a border width. We're going to give it a border color. Okay, got it. So our border radius, I was going to say this is something like 5, pretty reasonable. Border width, I think, is 2. And let's give it a border color of tertiary, just to see what that looks like, right? So if we zoom in, this is what things look like. So I'm not too opposed to that, right? It's not bad, but I want more space between this blue and everything else because it looks kind of ugly as is. So I'm gonna click on our row and we're gonna give some padding. We're gonna add, I think 12. Whoop, that makes it really tiny. Maybe 6. 6 looks good. If I expand this out, then things should still look okay. And they do. I'm going to center elements on the left side with the column. So now this is what it looked like. Like this is what I want it to look like when I mouse over it. I want it to have this blue outline. So that's what our container has, this border color. So we're going to give it a conditional, right? And before I can give it a conditional, like just to change the color, what I want to do is, well, I need to know whether or not we're moused over it and whether or not we're moused off of it. And to do that, we're going to create what's called a component state variable. And so we'll have this set up to be, let's say, highlighted, right? So highlighted, and I'm thinking, let's see, do I want this to highlight in, like, how do I want to highlight this? So when I mouse over it, I do want it to be blue, but I also want to highlight all of the associated tools that integrate really well with this one. And so how do I want to do that? What color do I want there? Do I want a separate color, or do I just want those to be blue as well? I am thinking that it makes a lot of sense to make them a different color. My reasoning behind that is because a tool could exist in multiple of those buckets. So Smart Suite, for example, exists in all 3. And it would be cool to be able to see Smart Suite in all 3 of the buckets, if it's there. And then maybe highlight it green if it matches me like this, if it works and integrates really well with this tool. So here's what we are going to do then. We're going to create what's called a data type. We're going to create an enum, and this enum is going to have a NoCode tool highlight type. And it's just going to have, right now, it's just going to have 2 values or 3 values. It's going to have none, right? None. It's going to have direct, and then maybe I'll just call it indirect. Or, yeah, I'll just call it indirect for now. I can change that name later if I so desire. But this is a good start. NoCode tool highlight type. So we hop back over to my widget tree. I'm going to add a state variable. It's the highlight type, and it's going to be my enum. We're going to select the NoCode tool, highlight the type, and the default will be none. So if it's none, we're going to hit confirm. Nullable, it should not be nullable. There we go. And now we have our highlight type. So another piece of information that's important to note is just passing in the information. So let's say I need to be able to tell this no-code tool row that it is highlighted indirectly because I moused over something that works well with it. We're going to add another component parameter, and this will be I'll just call it the indirect highlight. And we'll just set this to bool. I'm going to say it's required, and the default is false. So confirm that, and there we go. Okay, so now what we're going to do is I'm going to go to this container, and I'm going to change this border color to be conditional. So from variable, it's then boom. So I can do conditionals. So if the highlight type, wherever it is, I'll search it. Highlight type is equal to none, then I want this to be unset. I don't want to have a border color. If the highlight type is equal to direct, then I want the border color to be our tertiary. And then last but not least, if otherwise, we'll have it be this success. This will be the success color. And we confirm that there. Okay. Now, something we need to set up. There's two things we need to set up. First and foremost, our mouse region. We need to edit this so that when the mouse enters, not only do we execute our callback, but we also update our component state to change the highlight type, set value, be direct. And then on mouse exit, we need to update the component state. I'm actually just going to copy this action. I'm going to paste it here, and I'm going to change this to be none and confirm. There we go. So with that in hand, now we can hop over to our second thing to implement, and that is when we receive this indirect highlight, this Boolean, I'm going to throw it into this on initialization. Not necessarily know that's exactly what I want to do. So let's change it. Because on initialization is only called once in my from my Flutter experience. It's not exactly what we want. So we're going to change this to be the highlight type. Make it our enum. Make it the highlight type. It's required. Make it not required. Now, so essentially what I needed to do is I needed to communicate to my widget. So the homepage needs to be able to pass information to my widget, letting it know, hey, you need to be indirectly highlighted. You need to be green, meaning you need to have the color change according to this. Now, let's keep this as a Boolean. I know it kind of goes against the enum that I had. And what we're going to do is we're going to go over to our container and we're going to change the border color so that if our indirect highlight is true, then we're going to make it our nice success, green. And if nothing else is here, we are going to, I'd like to clear the value that's here actually. So can we unset it? Do that. Oh, it didn't work. Tap color, not default variable value. Make it blank. Make it black. That'll do. Transparent. Perfect. So I confirm that. And now everything in here is wired up properly to ideally respond to us. Now I'm going to test this locally. I get my devices. I'm going to run this on Chrome. As soon as it finds my Chrome device. And then we can start to test whether or not mousing over it works. There's some additional work we need to put in to make it, well, to make it so that it indirectly highlights. We will get to that now, actually. So I'm going to hop over here and drag this off screen because I need to hop into Supabase. Oh yeah, there it is. Hop into Supabase. NoCode Software Selector. This is where we are at. We need to go into our table. We need to go to our no-code tools. And what we need to do is we actually need to create a relationship between these no-code tools and itself, which is a weird thing to do, but that's what we need to do. So we're going to add a column, and this column is going to be integrated tools. So what are these integrated tools going to do? It's actually going to be a many-to-many between these relationships. So we're actually going to make a new table. And the new table is going to be called no code tool integration. So to create a many-to-many table or a many-to-many relationship is basically saying every tool, no code tool, integrates with many other no code tools, which will integrate with many other no code tools. So Supabase is a great example. Supabase integrates incredibly well with Toddle. I recently saw that they pushed out an update that lets you integrate directly into Toddle. Supabase integrates super well with Flutterflow. Supabase is going to integrate with BuildShip, right? And then all these other tools. So Flutterflow integrates incredibly well with Supabase, with uh, Firebase, with BuildShip, etc. So we have this many-to-many relationship where every no-code tool integrates with many other no-code tools. Just kind of out of the box. So that's what we're going to create here. In order to create something like that, we need two tables. First table is the no-code tools. The second table is each of their integrations. So with that in mind, what we're going to do is we're going to add a foreign key relation. And it's going to be schema public. That's what I want. No-code tools. I'm going to use the ID of the no-code tool integrations. And this to go from and we're going to reference to the ID there. And I actually don't want that. That's not precisely what I'm looking for, so I need to add in the column. And it'll be called the source tool, which will be integer 8. And then I'll add a integrated tool, which will be another int 8. And now what we're going to do is we're going to add foreign keys to our no-code tools. We're going to say the source tool is going to integrate into the ID there. So what action if referenced row is updated, cascade. Action if referenced row is removed, cascade. I'd like to just delete it if it's removed. So that save. We're going to add another foreign key, and this will be the integrated tool into the ID of the public no-code tools. And we're going to do the same thing. We're going to cascade, 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 save. And so we are creating our many-to-many table now, adding 4 columns to our no-code tool integrations. And now what we're going to do is start inserting some data. So if we insert a new row, generate that source tool. So just looking at these, I wish the names. So let's just say I was pick Butterflow, integrates incredibly well with build ship. We can save that. We're going to insert another row. We're going to say Butterflow integrates incredibly well with Supabase. Save that. Insert another row. What other integrations we got? I think build ship integrates incredibly well with Supabase. I feel like the Zapier integrates really well with Smart Suite. I feel like Zapier kind of integrates with everything. I won't necessarily do that or say that, but it's true. Yeah. So for each of these, we actually also need to go the other way. And so I pretty much need to create 2 records for each of these. I'm trying to think if there's potentially a better way to approach that. But I think this flexibility is nice. So let's do one more, and we'll say that Smart Suite integrates really well with Zapier. Save. So now we have all of these, right? And we can pull this information in to our app and use that to know what integrates well. And the idea is we have a source. And so when we mouse over something, I'd love to pull just kind of all this information in to our app when it loads, and then use it and filter this list based on what I moused over. So that's what we're going to do. So we're going to hop back over to Butterflow over here, and we're going to go to my home page. And before we do that, I'm actually going to add a policy. I'm going to create a policy that enables select for all users and save that policy just so I can actually read it. And now we're going to hop back over here. So our home page has this query, and I can't add another. Oh, sorry. So our home page right now, it's querying all of the no-code tools. And I would like to add another query. I'm curious if I can, I'll just copy it and I'll add it to my stack, because why not? I'll paste it. Telling it to generate children. Okay, that's not what I want to do. So we're going to go to my container and we're going to paste it here. Paste. So now we have the no-code tools. And now that I'm looking at that, I realize I need to head over to the Supabase integration and click on Get Schema. Yep, totally fine overwriting it. So now I have no-code tool integrations and no-code tools. Boom, perfect. Hopping back over to homepage, we have our query here, which I will edit. And this is not look at no-code tool integrations. I don't want to filter anything. I literally do just want to get everything. It's a simple enough app that I'm okay grabbing everything and just loading it into memory and using it. So hit confirm. And now we are loading all of it. I can actually query, I can enable query cache settings, which might be useful. Since I have two errors, which it uses query cache name that does not match the correct query type. Maybe that's no code tool integration. Query cache. There we go. We have our cache. Looks like I needed to do that to fix it. Perfect. It's also telling me I have an error with custom functions. I don't even know what that is. Whatever. That always tends to pop up. Okay, so I'm not sure I'm going to complete this effort. I've kind of 3 minutes left on my what I'm doing, but we are pretty close. So let's see if I can push through and just get it done. Do have Chrome open now, so we can see our app. There it is. Pop it over here. Sure, that's right there. So submit that. Once that is submitted, it'll show me everything. And mousing over it does give us the nice blue outline. That's what we wanted. Looks like we have a lot of space in between these two things, which isn't necessarily what I was going for. I'm curious why space is there now. I wonder if it's possible that it's because I created it, made it a bit taller, so shrink it down, but here, oh, not what I wanted. NoCode Toro. Maybe my container here has a height. Doesn't have a height. Mouse region, do you have a height? Mouse cursor, automatic. Say basic. Okay, let's go back to homepage and see if that shrunk it. Did not shrink it. So looking at this item spacing, we make that 0. And my widgets have, it's got some padding, I guess. That's giving it a ton of space between everything, which is kind of crazy. I only have 4 padding, so I'll need to take a look at why that's doing that a bit later. I mean, looking at it, yeah, I mean, it's got the right sizing. So I'm not sure what it is that's causing it to have so much space, but I'll figure out later. So now that when I mouse over it, it's doing the right thing. What we want to do is we want to uh, see what are our actions? What are the things we need to take that need to take place? The first thing is I need to filter down the list of elements to only show what is integrated. So we're going to create a new state variable for that. Add integrated tools. And this will be a list of, I'll just make it a super base row. NoCode tool integrations is list and hit confirm. Okay, so now every time we mouse over one of these beautiful things on mouse enter, what we're going to do is going to call back, add action, and we are going to update our page state with, and this will be the integrated tools, and we're going to set the value. We're going to set it to be no code tool integration rows, so base rows, and we're going to filter list items based on a single condition, and the condition is if the callback parameters, the ID of the row, the tool that we just moused over, is equal to the item in list source tool. So that was a lot. Let's see if we hop over to Supabase, if I can make that make sense. So to find it. There you go. There you go. Okay, so what we're doing is we've pulled all of these. We've pulled all the tool integrations in. And what we're doing is we're saying we just moused over one of these rows. I want to make sure that, well, this row has an ID based on the no-code tool here. So it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And what we're doing is we're going to say we're going to take the list of items in the integrations list, and we're going to make sure that the source ID matches the ID of the tool we just hovered over. And this way, we can set it up so that when we mouse over it, it'll filter down that list to only give us the integrated tools with this specific tool, so Smart Suite, Supabase, etc. And then what we're going to do is we are going to, now that it's been updated, we're going to close it out. So we're actually going to add another action to the on-mouse exit, and we're going to do pretty much the same thing, except we're going to reset the, we're going to update the page state, and we're going to area tools, and we're going to just reset the value to be a blank list. We're going to click close. And now what we need to do is in these no-code tool rows, we're going to indirect highlight, make the Boolean. And the way we're going to set this up is if the ID, so if the, let's see, look at the condition, single condition, if the model tools item in not index in list, get row field, ID is equal to, I'll say, is there a better way to do that? Because I need to do a contains in. Okay, so I need to figure out how to do a contains. 100% sure how to do a contains. Maybe so. Nope, contains isn't there. Index and list. I might need to make a kind of a custom function for this so that I can do it in here. Just like the list contains this. Because I just need to check and see if the item here contains it here. It doesn't look like I have the ability to do that, which is a little annoying, but not the end of the world. So, all tool item ID equal to, yeah, I'm going to need to do something very specific here because I do need to run contains. I just need to check. So I'll probably need to make a custom function for that. Okay, I'm not going to dive into that today. We're out of time, but we've made some pretty awesome progress. Now, when you hover over things, they highlight blue, and I'm a big fan of that. If we just gonna reload this, let me know when it's done. We'll hop back over to the app itself. Come over here, it'll reload instantaneously. And now when we mouse over things, it lags just a little bit because it is doing that filtering. So it takes some time to do the filter, which is okay. Maybe need to figure out a way to speed that up because it's not filtering over too many things. We want this to feel snappy. That's okay. We can make it feel more snappy next time. I think something we could do to just immediately improve it would be to take a look at this container, the action actually, the mouse region, and open this up and update the component state first, and then execute the callback. So that should make it happen pretty much instantaneously. We'll test that. And looks like it still has a little bit of a delay. But I'm okay with that. It's not the end of the world. And if we were to export this as a desktop app, it'd be totally fine. All right, so next time we hop on and build, we're going to be taking a look at showing off all of the different tools that integrate incredibly well with this one. All right, that's our plan, that's our goal, and I feel like that'll just be super valuable for anyone looking to create or determine what their software stack is for their stuff. So thanks for hopping in and watching this with me. Let's keep crushing it, guys. Let's build some awesome, awesome stuff. And if you're watching this on the YouTube, I would really appreciate if you give me a follow and continue to learn how to build amazing software without writing any code with me.